Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm the founder of the Bad Academy, an organization in Vancouver that produces workshops for women by women. And I'm here with Christina today from Revival.
Revival is a store focusing on vintage clothing and home goods. We also have a lot of eco-friendly products here and vintage ceramics.
I'm so excited to be here today in your store. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started in vintage.
So many years ago, I thrifted a $6.99 Chanel bag. Yeah, and it was
Really?
authentic. Yeah, so, and then obviously many years later, I've looked it up online and it was on sale for $7,000. So.
What kind of bag? Sorry, I need to know.
It was a gold quilted Chanel bag. Okay. Yeah. Back then, people didn't really know what vintage or designer was. So it was a one-of-a-kind piece. And I think just understanding the value of really curated pieces led me to this journey of not only being able to think sustainable and eco-friendly, but being able to invest in like really great pieces.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's my experience shopping for vintage as well, but I didn't think I'm going to start a business from this.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you kind of went from being a person that maybe appreciated vintage to being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I started with a rack rental. So I started very small, doing a rack rental of some of my own pieces and one-of-a-kind pieces that weren't necessarily my vibe, but I admired. And then I went on to realizing that it was a profitable market out there. People are being a little bit more conscious about their footprint when it comes to an environmental impact. And then this lease came up at the store and I thought, let's just give it a chance. And so that's what happened.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I heard that you opened the store really fast.
I did. Oh my God.
How fast?
It was a whirlwind. So it took a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it took and obviously I think the amble to it was a lot of work, but I think getting the funding was quite key for me to get started quickly.
Right. And so how did you go about finding that funding?
Okay, so my business was in a big bank, which was taking a long time to get funding with the loans. And as a small business without having a huge credit history, it made it very difficult to get funding. My friend had suggested that Vancity was one of those institutions that could lend to small businesses like me. Not only on top of that, they have a huge mandate on environmental change and change for good. And so I thought, whoa, those are really aligned values. And I met with 2 advisors and I was funded in 3 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So I went through 2 funding streams, one through just a regular loan, and then they have something called a women's entrepreneurship program, which allows and considers women like me who are starting up to have access to funds very quickly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also an entrepreneur, but I didn't know that was actually something that was available. Do you have any advice for people that are starting to get started with their entrepreneur kind of journey?
Yeah, and I think for me, I had parents that encouraged me to dream big. So being able to just have that vision and hold on to it, as well as coupled with, the business sense of just having good credit, paying things on time and the balance of both and in between many different action items, I think is a great combination and recipe to have something like this realized.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so a great start to just introducing thrifted pieces is just to add one at a time. With what you're wearing, I would just add something like this,
Love it.
A red jumpsuit. I like it. What do we think?
It's very cute.
Okay, this is like a thrifted Wilfred piece from Aritzia. Okay, how about you? How difficult was it for you to get funding for your business?
I haven't gotten funding for my business, actually.
Okay.
So I'm just a solopreneur. I started Bad Academy out of like a necessity, basically, because I moved here and I was looking for community, and I was also looking for opportunities to learn cool new things.
Yeah.
And I only wanted to do it around women.
Ooh, okay.
And so I was looking for that. But then I could only find stuff like, I don't know, like flower arranging or wreath making, like vegan cheese making, which are all things that like I'm interested in. But I kind of was like, why aren't there opportunities for women to learn things that maybe are a bit more practical, a little more like I don't know, technical.
Yes.
And in like a safe and non-intimidating environment. So
yeah, and I feel like that's for me also key. It's identifying a gap in the market where you could serve.
Exactly.
There was a gap in the market when it came to vintage clothing that were unique, crazy, one-of-a-kind pieces in a nice, decent space that was clean, where people didn't have to like really dig through, sometimes not so great smelling places, right? And you found that there was a gap in the workshops and classes that you wanted to do.
Yeah, and you know what? The biggest piece is like curation, because like you have so many options here in the store.
Yeah.
That like I'm like trying hard not to like get distracted by looking at all of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I really want to look at it. But also like in my business, like the curation of the different types of workshops that we offer is why people come here. Yeah. Because for a while I was like doubting my business. I was like, this is all stuff that people can learn online.
Yes.
You just go on YouTube, you can totally look it up. What value is my business providing? And through interviewing a lot of my customers, I realized that they trust me to like curate and to produce workshops where they can really trust the material, like the subject matter and the facts and everything that we're teaching them. And then, with like little kind of labor on their end.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the service that I provide, which is also very similar to the service you provide. Yeah. So a big part of, the Bad Academy is that a lot of our workshops are 101s. They're introductions to a lot of the things that we do. And the reason is because people have a really hard time like starting something new because they just make an assumption that like, oh, I'm bad at it, so why would I even try? Which is why the Bad Academy exists.
I got it.
We're all just bad together.
Yeah, fair.
And it's like a supportive environment where we're like, okay, we're meeting each other where we're at. We know that we're already bad at this, so let's start there. Because getting started is sometimes the hardest part.
Yes.
And I've talked to so many women that are like really interested in starting their own businesses, but they just don't even know what's possible.
Yes.
So I guess like when it comes to funding specifically, because I think that's one of the biggest barriers for people, like what would you say to women that think that they don't like qualify for things, or that they are like that they haven't even really thought about the process of it?
And I would just encourage them to think outside the box, outside of the big banks, right? Because credit unions do offer great funding options for micro, small businesses like mine. And then on top of that, there's accessibility to women entrepreneur funding as well that I didn't necessarily know about until I spoke to my friend. And that's also another option too. It's like tap into your own network of people who are tied into financial institutions outside of big banks that could help.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard that like a lot of times women will only go for funding opportunities that are specifically for women in business, but I'm like, you can actually apply for any of the funding opportunities, like grants or whatever, or loans. And you don't have to necessarily be like pigeonholing yourself into like the women only category.
Correct. Yeah. I was also able to qualify for a CDAP application, which is the Canadian government that allows funding for digital adoption. Now, I didn't necessarily have a big business that needed transformation, but it allowed me to build a website and pay for that fully funded, which is great.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. This is the mixing pattern outfit, right, within the same color wheel. This is going to be a little bit big on you, but I don't know. I just thought maybe it might work.
Let's make it work.
We're going to try. We're going to try our best.
Let's make it work.
Okay. Okay, you are a vision. Yes, I love it. So this is a prime example of mixing vintage with contemporary pieces. This is a Zara pant matched with something contemporary. But again, this is a great way to mix patterns, right? People often think, oh, I have to wear it all done up, but you don't. Like we could just literally have it rested on our shoulders like this. A beautiful pre-loved Louis, and then these awesome Pradas that were just sitting in somebody's closet and they just decided, it's not for me, let's gift it at home to somebody else.
So let's talk about cash flow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because I'm lucky because I don't have like almost any overhead in my business. When I run my workshops, I work in partnership with like other companies or organizations that have a space. So we can like use other spaces. And I just like work from home. It must be a bit laborious for you to like have such a beautiful space because, you know, rent isn't free.
No.
So how do you handle cash flow?
Yeah, so we have about 5 vendors here that are paying rent. It actually allows me to give small businesses a piece of storefront that they normally wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. And it also allows me to de-risk my overhead as well. So I also have some vendors who are helping me out as a small business owner with consigning. And so that's another creative way to be able to offset a huge upfront cost.
Wow, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah.
how did you go about finding those other vendors?
Well, believe it or not, I was a part of another collective called the Storehouse, and I had met some vendors through there who had approached me once they found out I was doing this and just wanted to be a part of it. So that was quite helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So was there a story or a moment that impacted you to be the entrepreneur that you are today?
I don't know. I mean, like, I never thought that I would open my own business. I never wanted to be like the person that everything is your fault, which is like when you're boss, you know, like it's nice to be a boss, but at the same time, if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yes.
So it just seemed like a lot of stress. And I was like, why would I ever want to do that? The only thing is like, I don't respond well to authority. So like, I can't work for other people. Like it's already, it's done, it's over. So I guess it's actually, when you ask me that question, the most recent, like it's actually pretty recent. I was listening to another entrepreneur speak about her funding journey. And right now, like raising money is hard. I mean, it's always been hard, but specifically like now, especially during like a pandemic and all that kind of stuff. She was advised by a lot of like businessmen to, you know, keep the people that she was investors, like the number of investors to be like quite low. So maybe like 1 or 2 investors, just for like the administrative like issues of like if you had a lot of people investing all at once, like you'd have to maintain all those people all the time and make them happy. Too many stakeholders. Anyway, long story short, she ended up like raising like millions of dollars in a very short amount of time with her business because she didn't take that advice.
Okay.
She was like, I'm different. I feel like I trust the people within my community. They can write me smaller checks and we can figure this out. And I trust them and then they trust me. Which kind of like a light bulb went off in my head, which was that like, we don't have to do things the way that we've been told. That is the best way to do it. Maybe women are meant to run businesses and we've just been told our entire lives that we can't because like we're too emotional, like, you know, we're not smart enough, we're not strong enough, you know, we have to be home with the kids, like whatever. I just find that it just sort of like shifted my mind where I was like, actually, like we can do things in the way that suits us. And I bet we could be successful in that way. So it's really been encouraging for me to like keep going. Even when I'm like starting to like grow in a way that like I never thought that I would. It's encouraging to know that people have like gotten to a point, or women specifically have gotten to a point where they've also been able to rise above and someone's told them to do it one way and they're like, nah, I'm doing it my own way. And succeeding in that.
Right.
So it's really inspiring. Yeah. How about you?
Well, after my 5th layoff,
Yeah.
I just started to really listen to the signs that I wasn't really meant to be in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of catapulted me into just going, I have to pivot in some way, shape, or form, and I have to be able to reevaluate what I'm passionate about and how can I make it work and monetize it. So I was pushed into it, to be honest, and had to move very quickly. I did speak to a lot of entrepreneurs as well. I did ask, how did you get started? And we have a community. If somebody asked me to have a coffee with them to figure out how I got started, I'm happy to be able to give half an hour of my time to be able to share. And I think it just took asking questions and then realizing that we could do it as well, right? You needed a combination of support, of a financial institution that could help, and then of course just the belief in self, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the impression that like getting into business requires like a magic formula, an MBA, like all these things. But I think some of the most successful businesses in the world like didn't start that way,
Yeah. Yes,
So
exactly.
I really feel like it just takes a lot of guts.
It takes a lot of guts. And then I think when we are putting sweat equity into businesses that isn't ours, and I know how hard I was working, I know I could have equivocally done it for myself.
I know.
Right?
That's the thing. I know that I'm talented and I know that I can do things. And I was like, why am I renting out my services to other people when I could just be putting it towards something that I actually am passionate about?
Hello. Oh my God, look at her. How fun is this, right? I mean, you could wear it off the shoulder, or if you're feeling a little bit more conservative, above the shoulder. Both ways look amazing. It's been paired with a pre-loved BCBG clutch, her own boots. Again, we don't necessarily need to thrift or buy everything. We own a lot of stuff in our closet.
I'm buying this. So like a big part of what kind of keeps me going with Bad Academy is working with people that have the same values as me. That's like working with institutions, with organizations, my customers even. What glues us all together is our values.
Right.
So I guess like how do you instill values, like or your instilled values, like how do you kind of like practice that in your business?
That's a great question. I think for me, my passion for being able to not only help save our environment translates obviously and has manifested into this, right? It starts from basic practices in our shopping habits and intentional living. And I think if we could just go slow and align our values with partners that have shared values.
Like Vancity.
Like Vancity, yeah. So I didn't know that they have a whole program based on supporting businesses for climate that are helping with the climate change crisis, right? So that was a no-brainer, right? Like that is so aligned with me. And then a small portion of their shares, actually portions of their shares go back into the businesses that it supports within the community. So it becomes a circular give back, I guess you could say, when it comes to where my money goes and then how it gets given back to others who really could use it.
That's amazing because like it's like I think there's this misconception that financing or anything in finance is not like is immoral. You know, I think women specifically have issues around finance because they think like don't be greedy.
Right.
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 So when it comes to like funding and stuff like that, it's like we're a bit shy about talking about that kind of stuff. But it's so cool to like know that there are organizations that align with your values when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to community, all those things. So you can feel supported, like not only financially, but also like within your community because your credit union is like within your community.
Totally.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Like a nice skirt, perfect for spring. And we do have a lot of great basic tees that you could just layer with it, right? And then we'll do a little bit of outfit number 2. Ooh, okay. I love it on you. Yes, it's totally fun.
I think we need a hat to complete it.
Let's do it.
It must be so nice to like have inventory that
Yes.
isn't being like having to like be created.
Right.
Right?
It
Like,
exists.
Yeah, exists.
It
and
already exists.
You just have to like look for it,
Yes.
which is amazing. And also like incredibly sustainable. I think like that's I love that about vintage stores. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this could be an opportunity because a lot of people don't know how to lean into slow fashion or be able to take a piece and like dress it up. They sometimes come in here going, "Oh, thank you. The work's been done already, but I don't know how to put it in my wardrobe." And it could start with one piece, right? We don't necessarily have to massively consume. It could start within our wardrobe, right? And that might be a great opportunity for you to help teach women is like, how can we repurpose things within our own wardrobe? It starts with repairing, right? It starts with just reimagining sometimes, like a pair of pants and into shorts. That's an easy one. But what would it look like if we did a trim or like some fringe on pockets or whatnot? So I think that might be a good course.
I would love to do that course.
I will join.
Totally going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think like I also take pride in my business where I'm not like creating a ton of like new things for people, like it's like not products because I feel like we're such a product focused kind of society now. Like every time I'm on Instagram, it's like ad for like all the things that you can buy. And don't get me wrong, like I totally get sucked into consumerism. I think everybody does, but I really love that what people take away from my business is just knowledge and like just sharing that knowledge, and then you're able to do whatever you want with that knowledge, whether it's like a new hobby of yours or just something that you just learned one day. So
I love it.
So we're just still at sort of the beginning of the year, although it feels like it's like already been like a year since January. It's like time has been so weird recently.
Totally.
But like, do you have any goals for your business this year?
Yes, make rent, number one. And I mean, I think we're there. So I also would love to continue the awareness around the vision of leaning into slow fashion and slow living. And that also can pass down to gifting, right? Like we don't necessarily have to give new gifts. We can gift a vintage ceramic piece that would actually be really great for your pocket, but great for somebody who could just enjoy it again. So I would say that would be my goal. How about you?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, stay in business. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on building community this year. So like, I obviously love spreading knowledge to women, regardless of what the subject matter is. But the thing is, like, we're all really like lonely right now. It's been a tough few years.
Yes.
It's like, what happened?
A little thing called COVID. Yeah.
And I feel like that piece is missing from a lot of the programming that I see these days. It's a bit isolating. We still haven't had time to process exactly what happened. And so building community around the workshops that I do is huge for me. So I'm trying to like focus on making sure that the connections that people make within our workshops kind of like live on. So, that's like starting like little like micro WhatsApp groups for the people that attend certain workshops, or like, playing matchmaker at some of my events and being like, you guys seem to have a lot in common. You should exchange numbers. Just because I feel like the more people feel supported, the more good that's going to come out of it.
Yes.
So just trying to like improve the community that way.
I love it. So if you were to start over again in your business, like what would you do differently?
I'm kind of like a no regrets kind of person, to be honest. Like, I mean, like, not that your question had anything to do with regret.
Yeah.
I started the Bad Academy on one Saturday morning when I like woke up a little bit early and just was like, whatever, I'll just
just do it.
Just do it. Because like I was waiting for it to be perfect.
Of course.
And
yes.
I was like, you know what? I don't need it to be perfect.
No.
And so I just like launched it, like I was using photography that wasn't mine, stuff like that was probably like not so good. But at the same time, like I wouldn't have started if I hadn't just like done it, and asked for forgiveness later. So if I were to do it differently, I think maybe believe in myself more because it never was meant to be a business. I like started it being like, this will be a fun side project for me, and I'll work in corporate, you know, Canada for forever, you know, like, and not really like, you know, I'll always have a full-time job. I'll always work for somebody. I think if I had had the mindset since the start of this, that it could be its own self-sustaining business that I could run, and I would have the freedom and kind of like creative vision to be able to pull something like this off long term, because it's been almost 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
You know, maybe I would have gone for bigger opportunities, like kind of like pushed myself a little bit more. But overall, I'm like really happy with the way that it's gone.
Awesome.
How about you?
If I were to start soon, I think it would be, I should have started sooner.
Yeah.
That for me, I just like, why did I not listen to the sign after the third layoff, right? Like I just, it was that mindset that kept me going back into that corporate hamster wheel. And so I think I would have just started sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too, actually. That's my answer. I changed it.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and this is resonating with you, just start. You could start small. My regret was not starting sooner, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna make mistakes, and as long as we're able to pivot quickly when we're making those mistakes, you're golden.
Yeah, and I would say that anybody's like watching this, you should know that you have all of the talent and all of the vision to be able to pull this off, and to believe in yourself, and also like use people in your community as a resource. You know, they all are willing to help, and give you advice on how to get started. So